The current political battle in Indiana centers on a push by national Republican interests, including the Trump administration and Vice President J.D. Vance, to compel the state's GOP-controlled legislature to redraw its congressional maps mid-decade, well ahead of the constitutionally mandated 2031 cycle. The goal is openly partisan: to eliminate Indiana's 2 Democratic U.S. House seats, held by Representatives Frank Mevon, 1st District, Northwest Indiana, and Andre Carson, 7th District, Indianapolis, thereby creating a 9-0 Republican delegation. This effort has led to a significant and unusual political stalemate. While the Republican-dominated House appears broadly supportive, the key holdouts are within the Indiana Senate Republican Caucus, led by Senate President Pro Tem Rodric Bray. As of this analysis, Bray's office has stated plainly that the votes required to pass mid-decade redistricting are not currently present. This refusal to immediately comply with intense national pressure marks a rare instance of an entrenched state supermajority resisting a major partisan push, driven by a mixture of political prudence, constitutional concerns, and public opposition. Reasons for opposition and hesitation. The Indiana Senate Republicans' reluctance stems from several key factors, both legal and political. Fear of political backlash. Polling consistently shows that a majority of Hoosiers, including a substantial portion of Republican primary voters, oppose mid-decade redistricting. They view it as a politically motivated power grab and would prefer lawmakers focus on cost of living issues, property taxes, and the economy. Lawmakers fear that wasting taxpayer money on an unscheduled special session for a controversial partisan move could result in losses at the ballot box, particularly in local primary elections where low turnout amplifies motivated voters. Constitutional and legal concerns. Opponents, including legislative Democrats and legal experts, argue that the Indiana Constitution and state code imply that congressional maps should only be redrawn once per decade following the census. A mid-decade redraw would inevitably trigger costly and lengthy legal challenges based on state and federal claims, including allegations of partisan and racial gerrymandering, and potential dilution of black voting power in communities like Fort Wayne and Indianapolis. Principle and process. Some establishment Republicans within the Senate, like those who prioritized communities of interest in the 2021 map, appear hesitant to break with the tradition of decennial redistricting. They may view the mid-cycle change as an opportunistic and undignified move driven by out-of-state national political concerns rather than genuine Hoosier interests. No immediate need. Indiana already has one of the most gerrymandered delegations in the country, with Republicans holding 7 out of 9 seats. The risk involved in attempting to gain 2 seats is seen by some as outweighing the marginal benefit, especially given the political cost. Consequences of the stalemate. The current stalemate has several immediate and long-term consequences. Internal GOP division. The conflict has created visible fractures within the Indiana GOP, pitting national-aligned factions against more state-focused or traditionally minded legislators. This internal tension is a significant distraction from the state's main legislative agenda. Public scrutiny. The pressure campaign from Washington, D.C. has drawn immense public and media attention to the redistricting process, mobilizing grassroots organizations and resulting in significant opposition from voters across the political spectrum. Uncertainty for candidates. The lack of a firm decision leaves potential congressional candidates for the 2026 election cycle uncertain about the boundaries of the districts they plan to run in, complicating campaign planning ahead of the filing deadline. Delay in governor's decision. Governor Mike Braun has stated he will not call a special session unless he is confident the votes are secured, putting him in a difficult position between the National Party and the reluctance of his own legislative chamber. Prediction and solutions. Prediction. The Senate's stated lack of votes suggests that the immediate, aggressive push for a special session to redraw maps before the 2026 election cycle will fail. While national pressure from President Donald Trump and Vice President Vance will likely continue until the candidate filing deadline, the legislative leadership's public acknowledgement of the vote shortage is a strong indicator that the political risk is currently too high to proceed. Solutions: policy and political. Policy solution: focus on the real issues. The most practical political solution for the GOP is to heed the polls and shift focus back to kitchen table issues like cost of living, property taxes, and education. By abandoning the controversial mid-decade power play, legislators can redirect the public conversation to matters where they hold broader support. Long-term reform, structural change. The ultimate solution to prevent such partisan instability is structural reform. Indiana could join other states in establishing an independent, nonpartisan redistricting commission. This would remove the power of drawing maps from the hands of incumbent politicians, ensuring districts are drawn to respect political subdivisions and communities of interest rather than partisan advantage, thereby making mid-decade gerrymandering efforts politically impossible. Political solution: democratic mobilization. For the Democratic minority and advocacy groups, the continued stalemate provides an opportunity to mobilize opposition, highlight the cost and cynicism of the process, and potentially exert enough public pressure to solidify the GOP's decision to walk away from the redraw.